for the stages of grief. It's kind of one of those things where the therapist picks the one that they see the most or the one that they feel like is more helpful to people. This one, I like it because it's kind of more comprehensive. It shows more of the things that I see in my practice the most. It's not a linear process. It can go up and down and around. So sometimes people come in with depression. Sometimes they come in with anger. Sometimes they're like, okay, I'm hopeful for the future. You just never know which stage you're going to be in. And guess what? They can turn around and fall right back into one of the other stages that are more debilitating. Because as time goes on, they start thinking about other things, or they already had some stressors in their lives, anxiety, depression, and this just exacerbated it, just made it worse. And sometimes they just don't even know where to start. So that's why therapy is good, because although people are like, well, why would I go sit in front of someone and tell them my problems? How will they understand? Well, that's the beauty of it, is that we are looking at behaviors. We're looking at assessment. We're looking at your life as a sum total, not just that one thing, but we start where you are. If you come in and you say you've got anger issues, we're going to flesh that out, but we're also going to look at some of the other areas that may be affecting that may be even causing those problems. And when you have that moment of, oh, yeah, that's where it started, or maybe that's, okay, I get it. And then we start building and helping you move through some of the stages so that you can get to where you want to be, not where we want you to be. Because sometimes, people feel like, oh, well, the therapist thinks that they're just going to tell me what I should be doing. And that's not true. A good therapist is supposed to start where you are and end where you want to be. So if you tell me that you want to, do X, Y, and Z, I'm going to do the most that I can to help you get there. But it's not going to be how I feel you should get there. We're going to work together, partner together to get you there. So one of the things that affects us most are the pain and guilt. So when I say pain, what do I mean? Physical pain, mental pain, all of it. You never know how it's going to affect you. When someone tells you that that they are not able to process their grief properly, a lot of times you're like, why not? I've lost somebody and we don't show our compassion. And then on the flip side of that, somebody may show too much, and it may be too much. You just cannot accept everything that they're trying to give you. So that's why it's just good to be a listening ear sometimes. You don't always have the answers. Sometimes you just need to be there. Community is the biggest thing that has helped us throughout the years. Our communities are broken. Our families are broken sometimes. And it's not unique to just African Americans, but in our own communities, we have to kind of tighten up. We've lost our way a little bit in some places, and in other ones, we've been really resilient. We've been, great. But I'm speaking to the fact that when we look at pain, I have so many people that come to me, regardless if they're friends or if it's professionally, that say, I don't have anyone to talk to. That shouldn't be, because we have aunts, we have uncles, we have, we have all these different people in our lives, but yet we feel alone. We have friends, yet we feel alone. Or we, African Americans, are really good at identifying a problem. But when it comes to solving the problem, we've been used to, like, well, I've got to pull myself up by my bootstraps. I'm not going to be able to, work with anybody else. And that shouldn't be either. We should have trusted contacts that we can go to. And if you don't, or if it's too debilitating, or if you've been speaking to someone and, you're talking about trauma and pain and everything, and they're like, I don't know how to deal with that. That's the time to seek help outside of, your own circle. So the anger and bargaining that we have through our grief process, sometimes we're like, well, if this hadn't happened, this would have happened. And I'll go do this and maybe I'll feel better. You start bargaining with yourself, others. If you believe in the higher power, like you start bargaining that way. And you're noticing it's not working, it's not helping. And then you become depressed and you're sad. You're not really sure where you're going to go next. Either you work through it, you educate yourself, you do correct coping skills, as we like to call them, and somehow you get through that process. And, you move on to working through acceptance and hope, and you're able to move on. But what about the people that aren't able to do that? Because the pain is so deep and unique to them that they're like, I cannot do that. I hear that so much, I cannot. And when you are able to get your hope restored and you start saying, I can, that's usually when we see progress and we see change. So who grieves? Everyone has lost something. everyone, a relationship, pets, people, and I don't want to minimize anything, because sometimes you can lose a pet and it can feel just like you lost your child. For some people, you can lose your shoe and have to go to work the next day and you're like, I really wanted to wear those shoes. You feel something in there that's lost. I lost that particular thing. But when we talk about a human being, it goes on a whole different level, right? And it should. But when we look at other people and how they seem to move through, we're like, I'm not like them. I'm not able to talk to anybody. I don't have anybody. I am alone. Loneliness is the thing that is hurting us the most. So when I was looking at the questions that came through before the seminar, and I changed the seminar a little bit because of it. And I think it's because of going through the pandemic and having a lot of death and sickness and illness through COVID and job loss and having to relocate, all these different things that are coming on at one time. People are starting to ask questions that are really, really, really difficult to answer just in a seminar. And I will say that from most of the questions that I got, most of the people would benefit from therapy. It's just plain and simple. And when I say that, it doesn't mean that you have to be in therapy for the rest of your lives. It just means that you need to get through this with the assistance of someone else, because the problems are so great. If you continue to just stay in that place, you're going to probably hurt even more. Males, Black males, tend to grieve a little differently. A lot of times they're kind of taught to not express themselves. That can be males in general, but especially in Black males, because guess what? In our communities, it's like, okay, you gotta man up, you gotta not show any vulnerability. You have difficulty being able to share with others, not that you aren't hurting just as much or more. It's more so that having trusted contacts and feeling like, okay, yeah, I can share this with my boys. I can share this, with my uncle, my dad, my, whoever that person is. Sometimes they want a male to speak to, and that's fine. But when we look at it from a therapeutic standpoint, a male versus female therapist can help anyone. And a lot of times we feel like, well, females, like they grieve differently, or when they lose a relationship, or, if lose a child, lose a parent, lose anybody, that they grieve differently than men. Men hurt just as much. With the studies that have been shown, there really is no difference in how people actually feel. It's more so in how they process. So if females have been used to expressing themselves and being able to process their emotions, then they may do a little better. But as far as males, if they have been taught or just learned not to share, then they go inward, everything's internal, and they do not really process the grief properly. It's really, really important for males, especially at this day and age, to be able to seek help, because if we look at it, I think statistics show males between 15 and 24, the suicide is the third leading cause of death. It's pretty important, and it's, really telling that we have people in our community that are really hurting, but there are some that are being neglected, and we need to address it. And the only way we can address it is start having these conversations. If we don't get this out there, especially amongst the community, who's going to tell us? Who's going to share it with us? We need professionals that are willing to, volunteer time to, get the word out, whether it's going to community centers, churches, wherever you have to go to kind of put the word out that, maybe we need to start a group. Maybe, we need to have a discussion about this or that. If we look at some of the places that we used to go to, and especially even in homes, we aren't getting together and just laughing and talking and sharing, so we can build relationships where when things do go wrong, we have someone to talk to. That I have found.